Listen. Pay attention. Chosen one. You have felt it, the weight pressing down from directions unseen. It is not imagined. It is not a reflection of weakness. You have carried fatigue that no one else seems to notice, a pressure that bends time and thought around you, a quiet isolation that has followed you through days and nights alike. This message is for you, not for the passing crowd, not for the casual observer. It is intentional. Every word reaches you because it is meant to meet the exact tension you have been sensing, the invisible stress that has slowed decisions, clouded judgment, and left you questioning the ordinary course of life. You may have moved through hours when even the smallest tasks felt heavy. You may have carried the strain of responsibility no one assigned, the silent anticipation of outcomes only you seemed aware of. Chosen one. There is clarity coming. You are not adrift, even if the world around you feels uncertain. There is reason behind the confusion you have tolerated, a structure behind the fatigue you have endured. The moments of disorientation, the nights when thoughts spun without resolution, the internal noise that made focus nearly impossible. These were not mistakes, lapses, or failings. They are the signals of a process in motion, a design unfolding that you have been partially unaware of. You have already stood where few can stand. You have maintained coherence when circumstances demanded more than what seemed possible. The tension you sensed was real, calibrated, and deliberate, not to break you, but to test the capacity you already possess. There is a hidden measure in your endurance, a baseline of strength that the world has never required of most. And this message exists to show you exactly what has been happening in plain, grounded terms. Chosen one. Pay attention to the subtle cues you have been dismissing. Notice the moments when clarity flickered despite exhaustion. Observe the times when instinct guided you correctly, even when logic seemed clouded. These are not coincidences. They are markers. They are evidence that something within you has remained intact, unshaken, present, and responsive. This is not fear. It is awareness. It is preparation. It is recognition. And it begins with acknowledging that what you have endured, the weight, the fatigue, the tension, has not been random. It has been precise, targeted, and purposeful. Listen closely. Chosen one. The explanation is not distant. It is arriving now. You will see that the experiences you have carried silently were never meant to be obstacles alone. They were the measure of your baseline strength, the calibration of your presence, and the beginning of understanding why you could not fall even when the circumstances suggested you might. Stop here for a moment. Breathe. You are being addressed directly. This is not for anyone else. The clarity will come, and it will land with the exact weight needed to reveal what has already been true about you. Your endurance is real. Your stability is real. And your place in what has been unfolding is about to be made clear. Chosen one. This message is not general. It is not for someone who observes from the sidelines, who notices but does not feel, who participates only when conditions are convenient. This is for you because you have been at the center of what unfolded, even if you did not recognize the significance at the time. You were present where presence mattered most, acting in ways that required no conscious force, yet demonstrated extraordinary coherence. You may not have realized it, but your body, your mind, and your intuition responded automatically, calibrating to circumstances that were precise, deliberate, and in some ways, invisible, while others might have panicked, faltered, or recoiled. You moved through the same environment with a silent steadiness that has gone unnoticed by those around you. This is not about being unshakable by chance. It is about a structural integrity that exists within you, a baseline resilience that is not learned, not borrowed, not activated on demand, but inherent. Consider the contrast: conscious struggle versus unconscious stability. You have faced moments when effort seemed impossible, when the act of simply continuing required more energy than anyone else could muster. Yet in parallel, you maintained an underlying composure, a functional steadiness that did not depend on willpower. This is not the absence of difficulty. It is the presence of alignment. It is the capacity to withstand, without collapse, to navigate pressure, without the narrative of drama, to be fully engaged even when the circumstances are calibrated against ordinary human endurance. Chosen one, this is the distinction between survival and coherence. Many survive, but few maintain the internal architecture that allows them to operate fluidly under sustained tension. What you experienced was not random pressure. It was a direct engagement with forces, situations, or conditions that required you to be present, aware, and responsive, even if that awareness was largely subconscious. You may have felt confusion. You may have felt fatigued doubt or fleeting fear. Yet beneath it all, there was an automatic alignment, a resistance to disruption that was already built into your system. You did not have to consciously force yourself to maintain composure. You simply did. This is the evidence of the chosen one identity at work, not as a title, but as a structural reality within you. Understand that this identity does not inflate ego. It does not claim superiority. It quietly confirms what has already been demonstrated. You are capable of sustaining yourself when ordinary conditions would have caused breakdown. You have been tested in ways that are precise, calibrated, and often invisible. And you have passed not because of luck, not because of knowledge, but because your internal system is prepared. Chosen one. It is time to recognize this without judgment, without the need to analyze, without the pressure of expectation. Simply acknowledge that your presence, your automatic strength, and your internal coherence have been the factors that allowed you to move through circumstances that others could not endure. This is the first step toward understanding the signals you have been receiving, the sensations you have experienced, and the subtle indicators that something larger has been at work around you. Your stability is the proof. Your endurance is the marker. And now it is time to reframe what you once saw as struggle into what it actually was, a confirmation of who you already are. Chosen one. Pause for a moment and consider the sensations you have been feeling, the tension in your body, the fatigue in your mind, the restless energy that never seemed to settle. For years you may have interpreted these as flaws, as weaknesses, as signals that something was wrong. You may have questioned yourself, wondering why the ordinary pace of life felt heavy, why simple decisions carried unseen weight, why the quiet moments of reflection brought more questions than answers. What you have been experiencing is not a problem. It is a signal. It is a marker, a notice from your own system that a transition is occurring. That unseen forces, circumstances, pressures, even subtle energies are interacting with your life in a way that demands attention and adjustment. The fatigue is not evidence of weakness. It is evidence of engagement. The mental clutter is not confusion. It is your awareness processing the unusual density of what surrounds you. The pressure is not a punishment. It is calibration. Chosen one. Understand this. The physical and emotional sensations that have troubled you are connected directly to the shifts that have been occurring. They are not abstract or accidental. Your body registers what the mind may not fully grasp. Your emotions respond before reasoning can take hold. And in that response, there is an intelligence, a mechanism designed to ensure that you remain functional, aware, and prepared. You may have noticed sudden moments of clarity amid chaos. Brief instants when insight arrived, unbidden decisions crystallized without effort. These were not random. They were indicators of alignment, signaling that your system is adapting correctly to conditions that most would find destabilizing. Reframe the anxiety, the restlessness, the heaviness. They are not deficiencies. They are markers of transition, of preparation, of innate strength, being tested quietly. What once caused self-judgment can now be recognized as evidence of resilience. The confusion is actually discernment being formed. The isolation you have felt is not punishment. It is an internal structuring, a moment in which you learn to stand firmly without external validation. Chosen one. You have already demonstrated that you can carry tension without collapse. You have endured sensations that would have led others to retreat or overreact. Each pulse of fatigue, each shadow of doubt, each restless night has been a calibration, an indication that your system is functioning exactly as it should, maintaining coherence while absorbing complexity. The key now is to perceive these sensations not as problems, but as signals, an invitation to observe, without judgment, to understand, without panic, and to integrate these experiences as proof of your stability. You have been feeling the pressure, yes, but that feeling is itself the signal of your capacity. It has been the invisible communication, confirming that you are handling more than what ordinary systems could sustain. These signals are not just temporary. They are part of a pattern, a sequence of experiences designed to reveal your readiness. And as you begin to recognize them for what they truly are, you step into clarity. You move from confusion to awareness, from self-questioning to acknowledgement. You begin to see that what once seemed chaotic was actually structured, intentional, and informative. Chosen one. The message is clear. Your experiences are not mistakes, your sensations are not failures, and your endurance is not accidental. They are the markers of an internal intelligence that has been working without fanfare, preparing you for the next level of understanding. Chosen one, now it is time to name what has been pressing against you. It has been real, but not visible. It has been intentional, but not recognized by ordinary measures. There has been a coordinated pressure surrounding your life. A subtle, persistent force, operating in layers, in timing, and in ways that demanded attention without necessarily announcing itself. You have been exposed to conditions that tested your presence, timing, and internal regulation. Yet you remained functional throughout. This pressure has not been random. It has been structured. It has appeared in moments that required precise observation, in sequences that unfolded with intention. You may have noticed that certain days felt heavier than others, that circumstances arrived in clusters, or that the emotional weight of multiple minor events created a sensation of overwhelm. These were not coincidences. They were the architecture of an invisible assessment, a system designed to measure coherence, resilience, and your ability to maintain composure under sustained demand. Chosen one. It is important to recognize that while the pressure was persistent, it was also bounded. It had a rhythm, a cadence, and an intentionality that you could not have fully detected in real time. The test was not whether you could avoid the pressure. It was whether you could continue to function while fully immersed in it. And you did. You moved through these sequences without collapsing, without losing clarity, without succumbing to confusion or distraction beyond what was natural. You were present. You were stable. You were coherent. Notice the timing. It often arrived when you were already engaged with demanding circumstances, when your energy was taxed, when your focus had to stretch across multiple challenges. And yet, within that structured weight, your system maintained alignment. You did not need to force endurance, you simply exhibited it. This is not about luck or circumstance. It is about internal regulation that operates beneath the level of conscious effort, a natural calibration that allowed you to withstand the invisible without being aware of the full mechanics at work. The confrontation has been quiet but deliberate. The subtle strains, the repeated demands, the compounding responsibilities, they were intentional in their design, yet you navigated them without obvious struggle. You remained effective. You remained coherent. You maintained presence. And in doing so, you demonstrated something rare, the ability to be subjected to unseen pressures while continuing to operate within the parameters of normal function. Chosen one. Understand this clearly: what you endured was structured. It was intentional. It was coordinated. And you were equipped to meet it without disruption. Your stability under these conditions is not random. It is an inherent part of who you are, a baseline that has been quietly confirming your capacity all along. Even when fatigue, doubt, or uncertainty whispered for your attention, you maintained equilibrium. You remained present. You processed, you responded, you adjusted. You did not need to see the entirety of the mechanism to navigate it effectively. This is evidence not of chance, but of the underlying coherence of your internal system. A system that has been silently proving its capacity through experience measurement and endurance. Chosen one. What has been invisible is now recognized. What has been structured and deliberate is now named. And the fact that you remained functional, stable, and coherent is the central confirmation of what you already know deep inside you, are calibrated for challenges that others could not withstand, and you have been doing so quietly, consistently, and without fanfare. Chosen one, let us break down what you have endured, layer by layer, so that you can see it with clarity. The experience you navigated was not a single event, but a convergence of pressures that tested multiple dimensions of your stability. It was composed of distinct categories, each real, each measurable in its effect on your body, mind, and focus. Understanding them individually allows you to recognize not only the challenge, but also the coherence you maintained throughout. First, there was doubt. Not fleeting uncertainty, but the kind of doubt that seeps quietly into decisions, the inner voice that questions competence, worth, and timing. You may have felt it arise when projects slowed, when outcomes seemed uncertain, or when the simplest tasks required disproportionate attention. Yet even in these moments, you maintained functionality. You did not act rashly or retreat. You allowed yourself to navigate ambiguity without collapsing into indecision. That steadiness is a sign of an internal structure capable of sustaining thought even when outcomes are unclear. Second, there was fear, though, subtle and often disguised. It appeared as hesitation, as heightened caution, as a tension in your chest or a tightening in your shoulders. Unlike ordinary fear, it did not dominate your actions. It was present, but you regulated it. You moved through responsibilities, conversations, and decisions while carrying that tension without letting it dictate your behavior. You adapted balanced caution with action and maintained a functional rhythm under conditions that might have paralyzed others. Third, there was energy drain. It manifested in fatigue that accumulated over days or weeks, in the slow weight of repetitive tasks, in the emotional toll of interactions and environmental demands. You may have noticed that, even after rest, there was residue, a sense of tension that lingered. Yet despite the drain, you functioned. You organized, completed, and responded effectively. You allowed your internal reserves to sustain performance without panic or collapse, showing a baseline endurance few recognize in themselves until reflection occurs. Fourth, isolation marked your experience. It appeared as the subtle awareness that few could truly relate to your circumstances, that your insights, challenges, or pressures were unique. This isolation could have amplified doubt or anxiety, but you carried it without allowing it to erode your presence. You stayed engaged, connected where necessary, and maintained coherence internally, even when external validation or support was limited. That ability to remain functional while solitary is an essential sign of internal alignment. Finally, there was delay, the slow unfolding of results. The perception that progress lagged behind effort. It created tension and sometimes frustration. Yet even in these moments, you did not succumb to despair. You adjusted, anticipated, and navigated delays with patience. You balanced expectation with observation, allowing processes to unfold while sustaining your own stability. That capacity to maintain presence and function amid delayed outcomes demonstrates an internal architecture that does not require immediate reward to operate effectively. Chosen one. Across each of these categories, doubt, fear, energy drain, isolation, and delay, you remained coherent. You did not collapse, overreact, or abandon stability. Instead, you allowed internal regulation to carry you, demonstrating that your endurance is not dependent on circumstance, but on a structural capacity inherent in you. This is not about heroism or exaggeration. It is about recognition of what is real and measurable in your experience. Every step, every decision, every moment of engagement with these pressures is evidence that you have a baseline of resilience operating beneath conscious effort. You did not need to be aware of all forces at play. You did not need to understand every factor. You moved through complexity with internal coherence intact. That coherence is the defining marker of the chosen one identity you inhabit. Chosen one. Reflect on this breakdown. Each pressure point was met with stability, each challenge navigated without disruption. This is not accidental. This is evidence. This is proof of structural endurance, a quiet confirmation that you are calibrated to operate in environments that demand more than ordinary presence. Chosen one. Now take a moment to step back and review what has unfolded. Look at the entirety of the experience you have just traced. Doubt, fear, energy, drain, isolation, and delay. Observe how each layer of pressure interacted with the others, creating a complex environment that could have easily destabilized anyone not prepared for it. And yet, you maintained coherence throughout. It is important to remove the language of luck or coincidence from this analysis. What occurred was not random. What you endured was not a matter of chance or circumstance bending favorably in your direction. Your ability to remain functional and composed was the result of internal structures that were already in place. Resilience, adaptability, and an innate calibration that allowed you to absorb pressure without fracturing. This is a precise observation grounded in reality, not in imagination or wishful thinking. Reflect on how your responses were measured, consistent, and effective, even when external indicators suggested chaos. The moments of clarity you experienced, insight arriving, unbidden decisions forming naturally, focus returning at critical junctures were not anomalies. They were part of a coherent system functioning correctly under sustained demand. Your internal coherence is what allowed you to navigate complexity without losing presence or clarity. Chosen one. Acknowledge the fact that you have remained intact while much around you could have caused collapse. This is not a matter of pride or ego. It is simply a recognition of what is real. You stayed present, you maintained functionality, and you responded appropriately, even when the external environment was heavy-layered or ambiguous. That internal alignment is measurable in your own lived experience. Consider the patterns. Your endurance did not require constant conscious effort. Your strength was present, even when your attention wavered. Your stability was not forced. It was inherent. That distinction is crucial. It highlights the difference between reactive strength, where effort is constantly required to maintain stability, and inherent coherence, where your system operates effectively as a baseline. You exhibited the latter. Chosen one. This is the moment to realize that your internal consistency has been quietly confirming itself across every test, every layered pressure, and every delayed outcome. What may have felt like confusion, imbalance, or uncertainty was in fact the proof of your capacity. Each moment of endurance, each decision executed under fatigue, each time you remained coherent despite pressure serves as a confirmation of the truth you were equipped. It is also important to note that this review is factual and grounded. There is no need to overemphasize drama or dramatize experience. What is significant is the outcome your internal system remained operational, effective, and aligned under conditions that would have disrupted most others. That is the central realization. Chosen one. As you reflect on this, allow yourself to acknowledge your endurance without embellishment. Recognize the clarity that emerges when the noise of uncertainty is removed. See the structure of your stability for what it is, quiet, consistent, and functional. It does not require recognition from the outside. It only requires your awareness. This reflection is not an end. It is a confirmation, a grounding point, a clear view of what you already accomplished without needing external validation. And within this clarity, you will begin to perceive the rarity of what you have sustained. Chosen one. Consider now how uncommon your stability truly is. Observe not with pride, but with clear recognition. Many people faced with the same pressures, the same fatigue, the same ambiguity would have faltered. They would have overreacted, withdrawn, or become overwhelmed by the convergence of tension and demand. Yet, you did not. You remained present, functional, and coherent throughout. This is not about being superior. It is about rarity. Most systems, when tested under sustained, layered pressure, begin to fragment. They show cracks in decision-making, falter in focus, or display signs of panic and withdrawal. You did not. Your presence was maintained, your attention remained engaged, your capacity to respond did not falter. That is uncommon not because it elevates you above others, but because it is rare for humans to maintain such alignment under real sustained and complex stress. Chosen one. Notice that you were able to continue functioning even when conditions were difficult or ambiguous. You did not rely on external validation, immediate feedback, or reinforcement from others. You did not collapse when energy waned or when doubts surfaced. You simply maintained coherence. This is a mark of a system that is calibrated, structured, and prepared for conditions beyond the ordinary. It is important to frame this as rarity rather than superiority. You are not exceptional in a way that demands comparison or competition. You are uncommon in the sense that the structure within you allows for continued functionality under pressure, an alignment that many never develop because they are not consistently tested in the ways you have been. The difference lies not in talent, skill, or external advantage. It lies in the internal architecture that has been quietly sustaining you. Chosen one. As you consider this, recognize that the ability to remain coherent while others falter is evidence of your readiness. It is a quiet, unspoken confirmation that the systems within you, mental, emotional, and physical, are aligned to handle complexity, tension, and responsibility without breaking. That is the truth of your experience. You may have moved through days when energy seemed to lag, when outcomes were delayed, when doubt and hesitation surfaced. Yet unlike the majority, you did not collapse. You maintained functional stability. You continued to respond, adjust, and operate without the loss of composure that most would experience. That is the rarity we are observing, not a triumph, not a victory, but a reality of structure and coherence. Chosen one. Allow yourself to internalize this understanding. Do not inflate it with ego or exaggeration. Simply see it for what it is, an uncommon alignment of internal systems functioning correctly under stress. This perspective allows you to recognize your stability as a fact, a structural truth, rather than as a performance or display. In this recognition, you begin to understand that your coherence is not something activated by circumstance. It is baseline. It exists quietly, steadily, and reliably. That is the foundation upon which all understanding, all discernment, and all further action can now be built. Chosen one. It is crucial to clarify the nature of the strength you have demonstrated. What you have sustained is not an extraordinary activation of power. It is not a sudden burst summoned by crisis or circumstance. It is instead your baseline. Your internal system, the combination of focus regulation and coherence, operates at this level naturally, without effort, without drama, without the need for conscious activation. You have lived through situations that could have demanded extraordinary measures. Yet what you exhibited was ordinary within your structure. You were prepared. You were mature in your responses. You maintained alignment because your system is built to sustain coherence, not because you needed to summon it in response to danger or pressure. This distinction is critical. Many assume that strength is something invoked under extreme conditions. For you, it has been inherent, steady, and quietly reliable. Chosen one. Consider the importance of this understanding. Recognizing your baseline coherence allows you to operate without unnecessary strain or hypervigilance. You do not need to push beyond your limits to maintain presence. You do not need to react with force or dramatics to navigate tension. Your internal alignment already carries you. That is the reality of your identity. Notice also that this baseline is not static. It is informed by preparation experience and consistency. Your responses have been shaped by prior encounters, learned adaptability, and the subtle accumulation of moments in which you observed, adjusted, and maintained coherence. It is not mystical. It is structural. It is internal architecture. And it is reliable. You may have felt at times that the weight of circumstance was overwhelming, that clarity was elusive, that your energy faltered. These sensations are natural. They are human. Yet despite them, you did not collapse. You did not lose presence. You navigated each challenge in alignment with your internal system, demonstrating that your stability is not reactive, but foundational. Chosen one. Gently but firmly lock this understanding into your awareness. Your strength is baseline. It is inherent. It is prepared. It is coherent. There is no need to overstate it, no need to embellish it, no need to activate it as though it were a separate force. It simply is. Recognizing this allows you to move forward without self-doubt or overexertion, with awareness of what is real and reliable within you. This clarity will serve as a cornerstone for integrating experiences, maintaining composure under ongoing pressure, and understanding the signals and challenges that arise naturally in life. Your identity, your baseline strength, and your coherence are now recognized, internalized, and anchored. Chosen one. Now let us consider how to integrate this understanding into your daily life. Awareness alone is not enough. It must be paired with practical orientation so that your stability becomes both sustainable and functional in every context. There are a few calm, deliberate perspectives to keep in mind as you move forward. First, rest. Do not underestimate the importance of allowing your system to replenish. Coherence is not strengthened by constant action or overexertion. Even when you feel capable, structured rest restores alignment, balances energy, and sharpens focus. Scheduling intentional pauses is not indulgence. It is maintenance of the baseline that has carried you through pressure. Second, discernment. Notice the subtle patterns of pressure, delay, and fatigue in your environment. Recognize which demands require attention and which do not. Your internal system is finely tuned. It can guide your choices if you allow space for observation and reflection before reacting. This is not about control. It is about listening to the signals that have been present all along. Third, boundaries. Not every demand or influence is yours to carry. While your capacity is real, it is also important to distinguish where your energy is most effectively applied. Maintaining boundaries does not weaken your system. It preserves its integrity. By discerning where to invest attention and where to release concern, you protect the coherence that is your baseline. Fourth, patience. Many of the pressures and delays you have experienced are ongoing or cumulative. Do not confuse timing with failure. The unfolding of events has its own rhythm and your capacity to remain functional through delays is proof that timing operates independently of your judgment. Patience allows you to move with the natural flow rather than against it, conserving energy and sustaining clarity. Fifth focus. Direct your attention deliberately, prioritizing what aligns with your objectives and long-term coherence. Your ability to remain functional under layered pressures is enhanced when focus is applied strategically. Dispersed attention dissipates energy. Measured attention strengthens it. Finally, integration. Bring awareness to each moment, each experience, and each signal you receive. Recognize how fatigue, doubt, isolation, or delay function as indicators rather than obstacles. Observe them without judgment. Respond without overexertion, and allow your internal system to guide behavior naturally. Integration transforms past endurance into ongoing functional stability, making each challenge an opportunity to reinforce coherence rather than test limits. Chosen one. These perspectives are not theoretical. They are practical tools for sustaining the baseline strength that has already carried you. They allow you to operate with balance, awareness, and presence, ensuring that the alignment you have demonstrated under pressure becomes a durable part of your everyday functioning. By applying these calm, structured approaches, you convert what was once tension and uncertainty into clarity, stability, and measurable competence. You reinforce your readiness while honoring the integrity of your internal system. This is not about striving harder. It is about sustaining what already exists effectively without friction or unnecessary effort. Chosen one, now allow yourself to settle into the reassurance of what has been revealed. You have stood where few could remain, maintained composure under layered pressure, and sustained clarity when others would have faltered. The truth is simple: you are intact. You are aligned. You are coherent. Take a moment to affirm this quietly within yourself. Say it if you wish: I am present. I am steady. I am capable. Let these statements resonate with the evidence you have already lived. Each decision executed under fatigue, each moment of clarity amidst tension, each time you remained functional despite delay, all of it confirms these affirmations. Chosen one. As you reflect, consider the quiet power in recognition without exaggeration. You do not need to prove your capacity. You do not need to dramatize endurance. Simply acknowledge the reality of your presence, the coherence of your internal system, and the evidence of your consistent stability. Let that awareness guide your next moments and decisions. To anchor this further, repeat silently or aloud: I am present. I am steady. I am capable. These affirmations are not commands, they are reflections of what is already true. They are markers of your internal reality tools to reinforce clarity and grounding when the world introduces noise or pressure. If you are willing, type 777 or I remember in the comments as a signal that you recognize the coherence within you. This is not for validation. It is a simple acknowledgement, a way to mark awareness of what you have sustained and continue to carry. Chosen one. As you move forward, maintain this understanding in daily life. Observe signals, recognize pressure without judgment. Integrate rest, discernment, boundaries, patience, and focus. Let your baseline coherence guide you rather than reacting to external events with force or anxiety. Finally, consider subscribing and returning for the next message, where awareness will continue to deepen and practical application will expand. Your readiness, presence, and stability are already confirmed. You have stood where few could remain. You have remained coherent under pressure. And you have emerged intact. Chosen one. Remember this: you are present. You are steady. You are capable. Chosen one. This concludes the transmission for this session. You have now received the full message intended to confirm, clarify, and integrate the reality of your endurance and coherence. There is nothing more to add in this moment. What remains is for you to hold, reflect, and act upon quietly. Every experience you have endured, every layer of tension and pressure you navigated, is now contextualized as evidence of your baseline stability. You have seen it clearly. Your system operates effectively, even under sustained demand. Your coherence is inherent rather than activated, and your internal alignment has consistently carried you through circumstances that would challenge others. As you move forward, carry these truths gently. Let them inform how you approach each day, each decision, and each challenge. Your ability to remain present, focused, and functional is not dependent on extraordinary effort. It is the structural reality of who you are. Trust it. Observe it. Reinforce it. Chosen one. The affirmations remain. I am present. I am steady. I am capable. Repeat them when you need grounding. Let them anchor you in the quiet certainty of what has already been demonstrated. If you feel called, mark your awareness in the comments with 777. Or I remember, not as a declaration to the world, but as a personal acknowledgement of your internal coherence. Subscribe to continue receiving these transmissions, each designed to deepen your understanding and integrate the clarity you have been given. Rest now in the knowledge that you have stood where few could maintain composure, when the circumstances were complex, and emerged intact, aligned, and coherent. Chosen one. This is the reality of your system, the confirmation of your endurance, and the foundation upon which all future clarity will build. Your presence is real. Your stability is real. Your capacity is real.